Good morning, UUMAN. I'm your worship associate, Emmy Podorowski, a UUMAN youth member. On behalf of Reverend Dave Dunn, Director of Religious Exploration Lexi Tangney Brown, Music Director Alex Peach, my fellow worship associates, and the dedicated technical team that is making today's live stream possible, I would like to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Metro Atlanta North congregation, which we lovingly call UUMAN. We are a liberal faith community with the mission to nurture our spirit, strive for justice, and transform the world. No matter who you are, who you love, or where you are in your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Join us as we, UUMAN senior and junior youth, present our annual Sunday service. This year, we'd like to tell you a little bit about our generation, Gen Z, so you can understand the challenges we face and the things that we worry about. If there are any of you visiting us for the first time and feel comfortable doing so, please identify and introduce yourself so we can worship with one another as friends. Are there any first-time visitors on my left? Am I right? Okay. Please rise and introduce yourself. We have a few adult enrichment offerings this morning. Please refer to your order of service for the class locations. The Sunday service reflections will take place in the downstairs fellowship hall, room 3. Stewards of the Earth will be in the downstairs fellowship hall, room 1. Knit, crochet, and needlecraft will be in the downstairs fellowship hall, room 2. And Breeze Boot Camp will be in fellowship hall. There will be no RE today. We would like to remind you that there will be a Breeze Boot Camp today after service at fellowship hall. If you have any questions, please see Mark Sewell or Carla Rosati. Saturday, March 25th is the fourth Saturday of the month, which means that we will be volunteering at North Fulton Community Charities as a group from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can sign up directly via Breeze using the UUMAN calendar on the website. Also, look for an email this week to sign up or contact Reverend Dave directly, but using the calendar on our website is easiest. Kelly Callan is going to make an announcement about the career fair.
Good morning. This is a great attendance. Thank you, youth. We should have them do this once a month, right? As what Donna Giles said. For years, I have said we have so many folks here that have retired from or working in amazing and exciting careers. And next Sunday, after service at 11, where's Lexi? I want to get the right time. At 11:15, we will be on the portico learning more about those careers. So we really hope you will join us to learn more about all of our friends here at UUMAN. If you have not already signed up, there is still room, so we would love to hear from more people. But we hope this is the first of many, because there's a lot of really cool folks, including balloon artists. Folks, Bruce, you better sign up, that worked for NASA. Lots of interesting careers. So join us next Sunday at 11:15 on the portico. Thank you.
Martin Podorowski, my dad, has a stewardship announcement.
Thank you, Emmy. And thank you, all of you who have participated so far in this year's stewardship campaign. We are on the final leg of it, and we are over 83% of the way to our goal. That's 83% of our way to the goal of me not talking to you about this anymore. So if you have not yet had the opportunity to talk to one of us in the stewardship committee about your pledge form, we have some paper pledge forms as well as the online form, and we'd love to talk to you over this week and finalize our pledge campaign for this year. So thank you very much all for your support.
We light this chalice because we're Unitarian Universalists, and that's what we do. In 3 through 5, RE classes to lead us in the UU Principles song. They will sing it through the first time alone, and we will join them the second time. Words can be found in the order of worship.
Amira's Porpoise by Chrissy Bushyeager, adapted by me. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a girl who was searching for a porpoise. Now, as you probably know, a porpoise is a sea mammal in the dolphin community. Porpoises are smaller and shyer than dolphins. They are more difficult to find, but porpoises are very important. So there once was a girl named Amira. All she wanted for her birthday was a porpoise of her very own. She wished and hoped and dreamed for a porpoise for her birthday. She asked her parents and her grandparents. She told all her friends at school that she was getting a porpoise. But her birthday came and went, and she did not get a porpoise. She was very disappointed, and she wanted answers. So she asked her parents, and they said, "Oh, Amira, we can't get you a porpoise. That's something you need to seek out for yourself." Amira looked at her parents kind of funny and said, "You know I said porpoise, right? Like the sea mammal that's smaller than a dolphin?" And her parents looked at each other and said, "Oops, but you can't have a wild birthday. You can't have a wild animal for your birthday anyway." She asked her grandparents, and they said, "Oh, Amira, we can't get you a purpose. You'll have to figure out your purpose when you're older, and sometimes adults don't even know their purpose yet." At this point, Amira was getting a little annoyed. "I said porpoise. Porpoise, the sea mammal, like a small dolphin." Her grandparents said, "Oh, sorry. We misheard you, but we wouldn't have bought you a porpoise anyway. They belong in the wild, dear." Amira was fuming. Why had no one understood her when she said she wanted a porpoise? And now that she thought about it, why were the adults unwilling to give her a purpose anyway? What was a purpose anyway? So Amira set about to finding a purpose. After over the next several years, she asked a lot of adults that she knew and trusted. Some of the adults said, "I don't know, that's a really hard thing to explain." But some of the adults said, "Pay attention to the things you care about and how you can use those things to make a difference in the world. You may not have a clear idea about it yet, and your purpose will certainly change over time. But if you think about the things you value and how you can use those for good, you'll be on the right track. So Amira thought about all the things she valued and cared about, and things like animals and the habitats they live in. She thought about the things she liked to do, things like learning new things and teaching those things to others. She thought about her heroes and people who were living their lives in ways she wanted to copy. And she thought about what was possible and ways she could change the world when she was older. And eventually, after some time and work, Amira came up with her purpose. And the funny thing is that Amira's purpose didn't stray too far from porpoises. She decided that her purpose was to be a caring advocate for the earth and teach others about conservation, and that's just what she did. Thank you.
Weaving Our Path by Martha Dallas. Imagine with me that you're going along a trail in the woods of Vermont, and you come across a steep gorge with a river rushing at the bottom. There is only one way to get across. You see a bridge, and it's made out of grass. You see, what I want to know is what questions would be running through your mind before you set foot on that grass bridge. What I would want to know more than anything else is if the people who made the bridge also walked across it and whether or not they still use it. Of course, we don't have bridges made of grass in Georgia, but many were built for hundreds of years in South America by the Inca people, and I think a few still exist. Here's how they did it. First, they made fresh bridges once a year. On the appointed day, everyone in the village would gather to begin work. Each person had a special role to play in building the bridge. First, there would be people who gathered grass. Then, other people took that grass and twisted it into long ropes. Then, people took those ropes and wove them into thick braids, and those braids were twisted by other people into long cables as thick as my arm. Certain people strung the cables across the gorge and pulled them nice and tight. And finally, there were riggers who would lash the cables together in such a way as to create a footbed to walk on and rails on each side to hold. Each person did their part as best they could, as they relied on everyone else to do their part well, because every one of them needed that bridge to safely carry them across the river whenever they needed to go that way. I tell you about grass bridges this morning for two reasons. First, it reminds us of how important our small part is when it's part of something big and strong and even as miraculous as a bridge made of grass. I have to say, I think it's miraculous that a bridge can be made of grass. And these bridges could span 60 feet. That's longer than the length of our sanctuary. And they could hold 5 people at a time, and llamas too. Second, we in this congregation may not be building a bridge across a raging river, but we are building a way toward our future, our shared vision, and I want to walk that way. I hope many of you will walk that way too. And if I'm going to walk that way, I want to walk a way that feels sure, strong, and safe. A way that I know has been built well with everyone doing their part as best they can. So may we all build that way together like the Inca grass bridge builders.
Hello, my name is Joel Shanahan, and this is my sermon on climate change. According to the Iroquois Confederacy's Great Law of Haudenosaunee, in every deliberation, we must consider the impact of our decisions on the next 7 generations. Gen Z is, in fact, 7 generations from the beginning of the American Industrial Revolution. When the people of that time began to create new technology and expand cities, they did not think of the impact on my generation. Consequences that happened when they cut down millions of trees, or created thousands of polluting machines that ruined our air. Now, in just 7 generations, our Earth is becoming uninhabitable and dangerous. Climate change affects the weather, how much longer coastal cities will stay afloat, and humanity's future on Earth. Some natural disasters that are caused by climate change affecting our weather are hurricanes and tornadoes. The warming climate affects how much warm air rises over the ocean to form hurricanes, and warm air mixing with cool air to form tornadoes. Just a few weeks ago, there was a tornado watch when I came home from school, and I had to hide in my coat closet on the first floor to ensure my safety. There have also been record high summers in Georgia. Like last summer, it got over 100 degrees. Additionally, there's no snow during our winters. Just a few years ago, it snowed, and I went outside and had fun with friends. Now, it is cold and windy without any fun. It seems every year there is a new record of heat in certain countries. I mean, this past summer, the droughts in Europe were so intense that World War II submarines and debris were uncovered because of how little rain there was. I even once saw a pond at half size because of how little rain it was getting about a year ago. It made me sad because all of the life in that pond had to fight to survive with the little water they had left. And finally, intense weather events such as the worst hurricane or worst snowstorm that used to happen every few decades happen yearly. Every year there seems to be a record-breaking hurricane that affects a large portion of the eastern side of the country. Thankfully, the Atlanta area is never really hit with the hurricane, but the rain is absolutely horrendous and can cause panic in drivers on the road as rain is pouring and they can hardly see 5 feet in front of them. It is no shock that tiny islands in the Pacific will soon go underwater with the rising sea level. However, there are also a large number of coastal cities that will submerge underwater within the next 100 years. Some cities are, but not limited to, Venice, New Orleans, Savannah, London, Amsterdam, and Tokyo. About 90% of these cities I've never been to, and maybe I will have enough time to see them. But what about my children or grandchildren? They would probably not be able to experience the rich diversity each city holds and the history behind each city. And most folk in this crowd may not be able to see these cities or countries underwater, but I will, and that is the part of Earth I will never get to see again. How much time humanity has on Earth is uncertain, and because of the recklessness of earlier generations, Gen Z is forced to clean up the mess or we will all perish. With the hole in the ozone layer, the polar ice caps are melting, and with the melting, the sea level is continuing to rise. With the rise of the sea level, there will be less habitable land for humans to live in. And with the population of the world not slowing down, people will be forced to live in closer quarters, which could cause turmoil. I know if I had to live even closer to my family, I would go crazy. Again, with this decrease of land, farms will be engulfed in water or made smaller so houses can be made for people to live in. This will cause a shortage of food and can cause the water supply to be dirty since there will be more people dirtying it up. And not to mention climate change migrants from island nations or coastal cities being forced to immigrate to neighboring countries to survive. This could cause not only overpopulation, but also turmoil within the country because of religious differences or different ideologies. That is why it is crucial to stop climate change and to close the ozone layer as fast as possible to ensure that 7 generations from now, our descendants are living prosperously. Thank you.
At this point in our service, we share our joys with each other to magnify them, and our sorrows to divide the weight of their pain. If you are so moved, please feel free to come forward, drop a pebble in the bowl, and express the joy or sorrow that you may have. For those of you attending via our live stream, if you have a joy or sorrow that you would like to share this morning, please type it in the chat.
So my name is Seth, and most of you know I was hit by a car 2 months ago today, actually, and broke my leg. And for the first 6 or 7 weeks, I just stayed still and didn't do anything. But now look at me, I'm walking around.
Good
Morning, everyone. I'm John Burkhart, your Earth Ministry leader. I just want to express the joy that I have from being in such a supportive community. I've been doing a lot of work, and my Earth Ministry team as well, and we're just so happy to be here. And I'm also joyful for this opportunity to shoehorn an announcement in. The Earth Ministry is having a potluck this afternoon at 12:15. It's vegetarian only, so no animals were harmed to provide this meal for you, and we invite you all to join us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Rohan, and Dave Pregel and I are the facilitators for these amazing youth, and we want to drop a pebble of joy that we get to spend every Sunday morning with them. So thank you for sharing your youth with us, and we love you.
Hello, I'm Lexi T. Brown, and I'm also really proud of these kids. I promised them I wouldn't cry, so I'm not going to cry, but I'm really proud of you. It was really awesome. Look at all the people in this room that came to support you. You did something like really awesome. Okay, anyways, this week we passed 24 weeks in our pregnancy, which means that little baby Coda is viable, and that's pretty great.
Good morning. My name is Gus Hadar, and I haven't even had a chance to say hello yet, but it's a great joy to see Nat Parker here today. Haven't seen him in a while.
If there are no more further joys or sorrows, there aren't any in the chat, so now I'll drop one final pebble for all those joys and sorrows still too tender to escape the folds of our hearts. Let us keep one another in our thoughts for the coming weeks.
Good morning. I am Troy Vanderbeek, a member of the senior youth here at UUMAN. When the senior youth and junior youth were discussing potential topics for this youth service, I thought, why not just have it to be us as members of Generation Z? Also, just to clarify, Gen Z consists of people born from 1997 to 2012, not like the front of the order of the worship says incorrectly. Many of you are Gen X, boomers, some members of the silent generation, and millennials as well. But when I talk to people of different generations, there seems to be this large gap in culture. Of course, this is normal with any generation, as that is just how time works. However, there seems to be the biggest disconnect with my generation, Gen Z, than there is with most generations. Of course, that is due to many different factors: societal beauty standards, seeking validation through social media, political instability. However, one of the biggest things that makes Gen Z different is our resilience. Not to say that other generations aren't resilient when they were younger, but Gen Z is seen to be extremely resilient against the modern challenges we face that many of you have never had to face while growing up. Our resilience allows us to be able to adapt and persevere in the face of adversity. One of the greatest and worst creations during my upbringing was social media. Social media was created as a way to connect people from all across the world while sitting in the same position on your couch. Social media is an amazing tool to be able to collaborate with people who you would have never thought to have to ask for help. We use social media to consume news, to connect with others, and to express ourselves in ways that were not possible before. Overall, social media is such a great tool for communication. However, especially in the past decade, social media has had a detrimental impact on my generation and my peers. Social media went from the place of being able to share things about your life to becoming a place to showcase unattainable beauty standards and body types that are reinforced through celebrities and influencers who display their so-called perfect lives. They utilize filters and edited pictures to change themselves to be perceived as the utopian lifestyle. When the average person looks upon these images, it makes you feel inferior, inadequate, imperfect. The constant bombardment of these images can lead to negative comparisons, low self-esteem, and feelings of inadequacy. The pressure to conform to these standards can be overwhelming, leading many people to develop negative self-images. Young people with developing minds are most susceptible to this indoctrination that they need money, makeup, and plastic surgery just to become like the people they see every day on their phones. I can almost assure you that no one who is a member of Gen Z has not struggled with their body image or their self-worth. Many of my close peers had developed eating disorders, anxiety, and insecurity over eating food due to these ideas pushed into our minds. Even I have had to deal with negative thoughts over my body image, thinking, I'm not skinny enough, my skin isn't clear enough, I'm not good looking enough. However, recently, there has been a push, mainly by younger people, but there has been a push to be body positive, showcasing all different body types in media, in fashion, and even in some stores on mannequins. This push is the first step in the right direction and represents Gen Z's resilience as we can fix this epidemic of body negativity. Another problem that stems from social media creating an environment where people are constantly seeking validation through likes, comments, and followers. The infamous Bo Burnham once said, "If my life isn't viewed, I'm not real. If I'm not seen, I don't exist," in relation to social media. The number of likes and followers a person has often becomes a measure of their worth, and not having enough can lead to feelings of self-doubt and insecurity. This validation-seeking behavior can lead to the constant need for approval, which can negatively impact self-image and mental health. This need for validation can also lead to people presenting a curated version of their lives that is not reflective of reality, leading to unrealistic expectations for their followers. This can reflect onto their followers, as this is a cycle of validation-seeking behavior that is created when people are always posting about their perfect lives. Also, when young people become entrenched in their phones and this idea of perfectly showing their lives to their followers, they become isolated. Phones and social media are a way to escape into a world where you aren't alone without having to go out into the world to seek that feeling of not being alone. And when some kids see that they're being ignored by their peers who are deep in their own world in their phone, they too become addicted and fall deep into the fake world of social media. No one is able to seek personal comfort with the people they are with when these people seek that same comfort online, thus utilizing social media to seek relationships that are harder to find in the real world than on your phone. I would love to say that this problem is getting better and how this is another great example about how Gen Z is resilient, but so far there has barely been any changes, only additions to make the problem worse. The one thing I am positive about and sometimes see when it comes to this topic is the older people of Gen Z, some of my siblings. They seem to realize the harmful effects social media can pose. They try to spend more time off of it as well as being more authentic on it. And I do hope for the future that this does not change the way people view themselves. One thing I talked to my parents about before writing this is how my generation has grown up with constant political instability. The current political divide, that I agree with my dad, started with 9/11 into the war on terror in the Middle East, exacerbated by the government constantly lying to the American people about said war and the financial crisis. There was also the first black president. The opioid crisis, celebrity becoming president, constant hate against minorities, a global pandemic, an attempt to overturn democracy, war in Ukraine, banks failing, only to name some of the big things that have happened in the 21st century. And obviously, all of you have had to fight through this instability yourselves. Absolutely, I am not denying that. However, when you grow up in said instability, constant instability becomes the norm, and peace becomes a faint hope for the future. This also relates back to social media, as social media has become a breeding ground for political polarization. People tend to surround themselves with others who share their political views on social media. And due to algorithms, this creates echo chambers that reinforce their beliefs and makes it difficult to engage in constructive dialogue with those who hold different views. This can lead to a sense of political tribalism where people view those who disagree with them as enemies rather than fellow citizens with whom they can engage with in meaningful dialogue. For my generation, this sense of political tribalism is exacerbated by the fact that we have grown up in this political instability. We have seen the country go through some of the most divisive elections in history, and we've seen our leaders engage in rhetoric that is inflammatory and divisive. This has created a sense of hopelessness and despair, and it makes it difficult to engage in constructive political action. Combined with social injustice, most of my generation thinks that this political instability will tear this country apart. However, there are some members of my generation who are able to utilize social media in one of the best ways possible, to organize protests, to share information about candidates and issues, and to hold our leaders accountable. They're also using social media to engage in constructive dialogue with people who hold these different views, and to find common ground where we can work together to actually solve our problems, counteracting this idea of political tribalism. This is what should give us hope for the future leaders, members of our youth being able to stand up for themselves to have a say. If these are the future leaders who will run our country, then we have nothing to fear. Overall, I do have hope for the future. Sometimes that hope may be diminished by things I see and hear, but as I joke when I say, when all the boomers are dead, all our problems will be solved, which is absolutely not true. But Gen Z has shown that growing up being constantly exposed to economic uncertainty, political polarization, and social injustice has proven that Gen Z has the power to adapt and persevere. While I may seem pessimistic in some of my views, I am very hopeful for the future with my generation. Not to say that there isn't a lot of work that needs to be done first, but if any generation can fix the modern problems we face, it's the generation that can come up with the most modern solutions. Gen Z is a generation that is defined by our relationship with social media, but we are also a generation who has the potential to be a force for positive change. We are a generation that is not afraid to speak our minds and to demand change, and we are using social media to make our voices heard. As a community, it is your responsibility to support the youth, to listen to us, and to work to create a better world for us. Let the resilience and determination of Gen Z be a source of inspiration for everyone to make some change. Thank you.
In an effort to fulfill and further the vision and mission of this congregation, we ask that our members and friends share their time, treasure, and talents. We often share this treasure with groups that have a special significance. We chose the 50-50 recipient to be Lost and Found Youth. Lost and Found Youth is a charity focused on LGBTQIA youth who are homeless or struggling and need support. Lost and Found Youth helps with housing, clothing, food, assistance with birth certificates, driver's license, and so much more. They can be located at lnfy.org. With this, we will now take the offering. You can also give using the Givelify app. We accept this sacred offering generously given by our beloved members and friends. May we use it wisely and judiciously in service to our mission.
We are going to be singing closing hymn number 1023, Building Bridges. We are going to build bridges today, and we are going to do it from doing it 2 times through, and then our choir is going to spread out amongst you all, and we're going to build bridges starting in the back, meaning that you'll start, and then we'll continue to the second part, and just follow along with your leaders in the row. Okay? All right. Thank you. Please stand up as you're willing and able.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
So who is Gen Z? We are Gen Z. We are finding our purpose. We are building bridges for future generations. We are fighting to protect our earth. We are resilient. We are Gen Z.
love having